Well, since we swear you in too. So. Ready?
No. Sorry. I'm about to get to it.
Anybody else in the audience that hopes to testify at all? All right, please raise your right hands. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. All right, sir. The way this works is we're going to allow you to make a case. Just tell us all the who's, what, why's, whens, and where's of this, what support you have. Then at that point, Mr. Hester will be able to ask any questions, and he'll be able to present a case as to why the permit should not be granted. You'll be able to ask him questions, and then we'll take a brief summation. Since there are so few people here, hopefully we can keep this condensed and it will go rather quickly. All right, Counselor?
Let me set the record quickly,
right.
and then we'll be done with it. The application is denied based on objections from mayor public officials, which I'm led to believe was the sheriff and prosecuting attorney, and petition received in opposition bearing 494 signatures. And I will pass the file for your consideration. Mr. Lyons, you have the burden of going forward since you're petitioning for the benefit of an agency this evening.
Okay. We are ready. State your name, please.
John Glaber.
And John, you are the applicant on the application on behalf of the club, which is Mountain Shadows Inn, doing business as Shogun Japanese Steak and Seafood and Sushi. Is that correct? Okay. And I've got a map of the city of Jonesboro. Does that show the approximate location of Shogun's?
Yes.
Okay. I'll show that before I want to do
I'm not taking that.
Okay.
Too big, too big.
That's fine. I'll put it there for y'all to see. And Mr. Herringer, we also have a aerial map. And does this show the approximate location? It's got push pins for Shoguns as well as other business establishments in the area. Is that correct? Okay. I would move for introduction to that as applicant's exhibit number 1, and I have copies for all of the board. Okay.
Mr. Hester, you know where this is, don't you? All right.
I'm going to mark what I think is a Google map, Google aerial representation that shows Holiday Inn Express, Comfort Inn, Shogun's, Baymont Inn, and various other places. And Mr. Hester, you've seen this. I'm going to receive this as applicants number 1 with today's date.
Mr. Herringer, if you would, Shogun is located at 2912 Gilmore Drive, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like that from this photograph, it's hard to tell. Does Gilmore Drive open either onto the service road or directly onto the bypass?
No.
Okay, so in order to, looking at the map to get to Shogun's, you have to come from the north, and that would be up toward the Cracker Barrel, is that correct?
Yes.
And you can't get out going to the south either to the service road or onto the
There is
bypass?
no.
Okay. And there are a number of businesses that are noted here. What is primarily located in this area? Why do you believe the promote the public convenience and advantage in that particular area?
Well, primarily, there are a number of hotels surrounding the restaurant. These hotels accommodate anywhere from 800 to 1,000 people, or they have that many rooms available. And we've had numerous requests over the last 2 years for people coming primarily from the hotels, asking if they could possibly have an alcoholic beverage at a private club in Shogun. We really feel like that it would serve community hospitality purpose to have food there. It would be very, very helpful.
I have another aerial photograph which shows it better, and is this the location of Shogun?
That's correct.
Okay, I'm going to circle that on this, and then I'll ask if that is marked. Two. Yes. And that's just a better depiction of the same thing, but more clearly shows how you have to get to Shogun. Is that correct?
Yes.
It shows that it does not open onto the bypass or onto the service road. Is that correct? Is that correct, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Okay. And what type of food do you serve at Shogun?
They specialize in a Japanese Chinese cuisine, but it had a lot of requests for special in this restaurant. Thai type menu, which was not offered at the other Japanese style restaurant in the restaurant.
And as a result, they have both their Japanese steak, seafood, and sushi menu, and they also have a Thai menu. Is that correct?
Are y'all about the only place you can get sushi in Jonesboro?
Now, sir, there's several places that offer sushi, but Shogun is the only one that has a Thai menu.
You're the owner operator?
Okay, I'll show you the menus and ask you to introduce those. We can do them separately or together.
Yeah, we'll do these collectively as number 3.
Okay.
I think when I got back out of the Army in '70, I don't think there was a sushi bar in Arkansas. It's amazing.
Amazing how popular it's
Oh, my son eats it all the time.
No pad Thai.
Have you ever tried the Thai cuisine before?
I've had Vietnamese cuisine and had Korean cuisine, but I've never had any Thai.
They cook a lot with curry.
Yeah, I understand it's hot. It's pretty hot stuff. Thank you. My son just got back to Korea and Japan, and I think that's all he did was eat sushi. All right, let's go ahead and tell us about the place and the hours of operation and kind of get on down here.
All right. You go ahead and tell them about the hours of operation.
The current hours of operation, as will be the hours if we're able to obtain the top alternative, would be the restaurant will close at
10:30?
10:30. Yes.
And this is not a location that's going to have just a bar. It is a restaurant. Is that correct?
You have to order a meal to get a drink. Is that the way you're gonna do it?
I think probably that initially would be the way we do it, and because I don't anticipate the majority of the clients who come into this restaurant will be asking for alcohol, and so we're going to try to keep it with food service.
But you can't, you're not talking about a individual stand-up bar where people come in and hang out and drink.
Oh, no.
You're talking about you gotta order food to get a drink?
I'm really unsure about that. I think they plan on trying to have a bar there, but
There's not a bar currently located.
Oh, no.
And it's not gonna be like, it's gonna be a restaurant.
That's
You
correct.
come in, you sit down, and you order a meal, and you get a glass of wine or beer.
That's correct.
Well, just so you're clear, what we grant here is what you have to do. I mean, you're not gonna be able to get the permit and, 30 days later say, hey, I'm gonna set up a bar. You gotta be very clear with us as to what you're gonna do, because that's what we're gonna vote on. And then if you want to do anything any different later on, you have to come back to the board and seek approval. So make sure you know what we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
And you keep saying they are gonna do this. I thought you said
Yeah.
you were the owner operator.
Well, it's myself and the employee.
Are you there on a daily basis
Yes, sir.
operating this restaurant?
Yes, sir. Every day.
Okay.
All right, and Mr. Herringer, you do have employees who are Chinese speaking, is that correct?
Yes.
And so you have done a notice of the rules and regulations regarding ABC, and you had that translated, is that correct?
In Chinese, we took all of the rules and regs as far as enforcement and possible violations that occur, made a poster of it and then translated it to Chinese so the Chinese employees would be sure to understand it also. And it would be posted there in the restaurant.
Here, I've got your closing hours is 10:30 PM. I didn't get your beginning operating hours.
They open at 2 in the afternoon,
2 AM.
What day?
Monday through Saturday.
So you're not gonna have a lunch, no lunch business?
Don't think they're gonna, I don't wanna offer alcohol during the lunch hours.
Okay.
And I think that would probably be, agreeable for all of them.
And Mr. Herringer, one of the issues is, of course, the number of permits that exist in Harrigan County and other counties in the state because the public convenience advantage is the issue. We've got the Census Bureau of the Benton County and the number of permits there. Is that a copy of the U.S. Census Bureau facts regarding the number of residents in Benton County? They're currently 120, as of May 20th, 2008, there were 120 permits. What's your introduction of that?
Mr. Henry, you have any other businesses that you need to do?
No.
You're just a restaurateur.
Yes, sir.
How long has this place been there?
The place was built in 1984.
Okay, and how long have you operated in this business?
I've been in operation of the business since that time.
Yeah, it was a different business, but it hadn't always been.
Looked like a steakhouse.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Okay, what else do y'all need to add here?
Just a couple of other things, sir. Mr. Herringer, have you received a number of letters of recommendation from various officials in the city of Jonesboro? Okay. One is from John M. Hurst, the CPA, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And Mr. Hurst is in favor of that?
Yes.
Okay. I move for introduction of that.
Counselor, we got a number of these you're going to introduce?
Yes. Let's introduce them all.
Yeah, why don't you just tell us who they are and introduce them all at once, and we'll save some trees. It doesn't last for Peter all night.
You got a whole bunch of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just asking to just give us a list, tell us who they are, and then introduce them as a block.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got one from Dr. Tom Adams, a professor of health and physical education at Arkansas State University, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. and one from Doug Wood, who is not optometrist, is Wood Hospital Vision Clinic in Arkansas, is that correct? In Jonesboro, Arkansas?
Yes.
Okay. And one from Dr. Joe George, who is an ophthalmologist at NEA Clinic in Jonesboro, is that correct?
Yes.
And one from Mr. Ben Hindman of Southern Pioneer Property and Casualty Insurance Company.
Yes.
And one from Mr. John Markham, who is a realtor, who says that this will promote tourism and promote public convenience and advantage in the city of Jonesboro. And one from Mr. Bob Clark, who's a United States Marshal, although he's acting as a private citizen and writing this letter in favor of it. Is that correct? That's correct. And one by Miss Barbara Weinstock, who is a member of the Craighead County Court in favor of this.
Yes.
And one by Mr. William Rainwater, who was the prior owner of the Holiday Inn right down the street from you. And in fact, they have had it right below at their restaurant or at their hotel for a number of years, which remains there today.
That's correct.
I would move for introduction of all those as a group. Is it?
Thank you.
Is that about eight?
I believe there's
Yes. I gave you one and then I did eight. Yeah, so.
What else do we need to add, Councilman?
That's about it.
Okay. Mr. Hester, do you have any questions you wish to ask?
Real quickly.
Speak up a little while.
I need to turn this on.
It should be on, but thump it there and see if
Not-
it's
not
working.
on.
Thump it. Yeah, it's
It's on.
working. Just speak up.
hang on, Bob.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah.
It says you've had numerous requests from the hotels.
Yes.
Hotels, for alcohol. Are they aware that there are numerous places around that they can get alcohol without coming to your establishment?
Well, Mr. Hester, when these folks have approached me, they're looking for a specific type of cuisine that Shogun. There's nothing in this immediate area that has that same cuisine.
So, that you're different from Fuji's, Japanese like.
We're different in that we're serving different. It's not the inconvenient menu.
I understand.
Well, we offer Thai cuisine and they don't. And in addition, Fuji is about 2 miles away from this location.
My truck was not truck off.
Bob, we're asking a question. Ask, phrase these in terms of a
Okay,
question.
okay.
You've been here a long time. but-
Okay. Now, you said you're the only place in Jonesboro that offers the Thai menu.
Yes, sir.
Are you aware of a place down on Main Street that has a new Thai restaurant that opens up recently?
I don't think they serve alcoholic beverages.
No, they don't. Just
Fuji's the only place that serves alcoholic beverages that does not have a Thai menu.
But for tourist place, you can't get the Thai menu. And is it necessary to have alcohol? I don't know.
Well, it's also helpful because we get a lot of requests from folks staying in these hotels. And, a lot of them like to walk to the restaurant.
Okay.
So it has to be convenient, it's public convenience.
You said initially that they are having phrased it, not planning on a bar. Does that mean later on they are planning on a bar? Or you are planning on a bar?
I have no plans to have a bar at the present time.
You understand, If you did anything any different than what we approved, you'll have to come back and ask us.
With the board's approval, sir.
Yeah, you said something about, unless I misunderstood, something about trying to have a bar there. What do you mean by that?
No, what I meant to say was that we have no immediate plans, I have no immediate plans to have a bar there, but should I decide to do so, that's with the approval of the ABC, certainly.
You're just gonna have a service bar there where people hand the drinks to the waitresses.
That's
All right.
That's correct.
I believe that's all the questions that I've got right now.
Okay, fine. All right, Mr. Hester, do you have any other, you don't have any witnesses to call, or anything?
No, I've got the vice president, secretary, treasurer of the nonprofit corporation here with us.
In the event that we
In the event that you have any specific questions.
Well, unless you want to raise it, we'll, okay, Mr. Hester, you're on. You're up.
Get your hand out so we can move this along for a
Be
minute, if
fine.
you don't mind.
Thank you.
Let's see. Well, try it here first. I can count my stuff here. Just pass it down,
Please.
Let me have one back. I'm gonna start out addressing the traffic situation because every time we come down here, we do make some traffic and there is a traffic situation, so I'll go through this pretty quickly. As you can see in this cartoon here, and this is a cartoon from Jonesboro Sun, and it says, caption that says City Funders Solutions for Traffic Question, and it's a car sitting there at the, man sitting there in his car on a Highland Stadium, he's been there long enough, he's spotted to build a web on it. So, pretty good indication we do have a lot of traffic, situation. Below that, there's a, excuse me, a couple of quotes from KI's story on December 11, 2007. As traffic near the mall gotten any better in a year, it's a problem that remains a hot topic among motorists, especially those traveling near the Turtle Creek Mall. Since January, there's been meeting after meeting to discuss travel time throughout the city. And on the next is a quote from Jonesboro Sun article, February 23rd, 08. According to a quality of life survey conducted recently by the Center for Social Research at Arkansas State University, traffic was identified by 38.2% of respondents as the biggest problem the city faces in 2008. Next page is KAIT story. It says, anyone who drives along US 63 in Jonesboro knows the problem of getting on and off the bypass. City officials say change needs to happen, but it will come up, likely come with a big price tag. It's just really hard to get on and off of everything. Traffic really backs up on the caraway, said the midlife. The study includes the main interchanges along US 63 and Jonesboro Minnesota. Foreman said they just don't know the best way to do it. On down, money is not the only problem, there's also not enough room. How about Mary Baptist Hospital, you have to take out the hospital public loops in there. When you get down to Caraway Stadium, those are so close together, it makes it impossible to put loops in there. Some of the traffic problems, many drivers avoid US 63 altogether. And then this is a picture of a time study, done November 7th, for Jonesboro Metropolitan Planning Organization, traffic time and place study, which I'd like to copy that somewhere around here. I showed you once before, that pretty well validates that we do have a use the word severe, not very much a traffic situation in Jonesboro. Now, that's look at your map. And you'll see, I've got the Shogun down at the bottom of these private 12 permits. I've got them highlighted in pink or whatever that color is. That Shogun search there. And we've got these blue are accidents in this area, and the yellow is ADT, is average daily traffic. This is the heaviest traffic area in Jonesboro, and I'll, in the next couple pages here, I'll show you why that is, main reason why that is. And I average up these accidents in this area right here. These numbers are at the what do you call it? two streets come together.
Intersection.
Intersection, I'm gonna say intersection. So those, that's where those numbers are. And it averages about one a day just in these areas right here. And you can see that traffic, it's the heaviest traffic area in the city, and therefore naturally will be the highest, most likely to be the highest traffic.
Bob,
accident.
we've had traffic engineers from Jonesboro, what have you, down here before, and what would you attribute to the fact that, I know how you feel about it, but, you know, we don't have anybody from the city, we don't have any police, we don't have the people that enforce the traffic laws, people that, the courts, the folks that have to deal with it. We don't have any of those people here. We got you, and I you know, we all know,
You know I'm with you, Frank.
we love you, and we know where you
Yeah.
stand, but, you know, we have to take stuff on the evidence, as you
Well,
know.
I think that's pretty good evidence right there, and this is the one that the mayor's speaking right here, and I think that's, to me, that's pretty good evidence right there, so, like I said, I made a copy of that, and I got to look here if you doubt my word, I didn't make all this.
But they don't, oh, I know that, I didn't, they're just not down here adding to, you know, the testimony that this is gonna tip the scale.
My point is just, the bottom line, we do have,
Lots of traffic.
have a problem in this particular area. Particularly around this, Shogun. So, the next page over on your map shows the major businesses, the Turtle Creek Mall and City Mall, nothing there right now, but,
Actually, on your map, it shows that they have access from Shogun's from 63 to the other, and on this other map, it doesn't.
well, that's just a fallacy of the map, I guess, that's just the way, it looks that way, but it's not. There's no access to 63, Shogun, right?
Okay, so,
It's just the way,
just
just the map.
misleading
Yeah,
the.
just the systems, operating system, I guess, or whatever, map system. Okay, and as you can see, out in the Indian Mall, Walmart, Kmart, Lowe's, Sam's Club, Gateway, Fire, Strip Mall, Office Depot, you can see the green banks there. All the banks have moved to that area for the main branches. This is this area where most of the almost all the restaurants are. The next page over will be the last one on this. And it shows another reason why we were such high traffic areas. And the Highland Drive runs east and west. It's a corridor to the east side of the county, Mississippi County, Blytheville, and that's anything east of Jonesboro. It comes through that street. So that would be one of the reasons why that would be so high, in addition to the other things that we've already gone over. And then stadium, Caraway and Stadium both run into the ASU University. You see the Indian Stadium up there at the top, so they run right into that. That was also another reason. And also the industrial park is over here. This 18 runs into the industrial park. People working there. Many of them come through this area. And the biggest one is the Stadium Boulevard, which is also 49 bypass. It's a border between Paragould and areas north of Paragould, Missouri, on the east side of Missouri, I guess, down that way, between that and Memphis, Little Rock, Harrisburg, Wynn, Forest City, Little Rock, all areas south and towards Memphis. So those are the reasons why this is such a big traffic area.
It would add, this,
Yes.
your feeling is this will really add to the traffic congestion.
Well, I'm not saying Shogun will add to congestion. I mean, we're talking about alcohol, and that's
So the alcohol,
Yeah.
you consume the
The
alcohol.
problem- there is a problem
I got
already.
you. Okay.
And then, anyway, the bottom line, we do have a traffic problem in Jonesboro. In this area in particular, we have traffic congestion and accidents. So now I'm gonna go into the adequacy, next one I'm gonna make is on adequacy. I'm gonna use the same map here. I don't know what adequacy means. I talked about a while ago and good with adequacy. If adequacy means anything, I would think this area here would be adequately served. Old Charlie's is Shogun's. If you look there, I've got the distances each one of these Shoguns is from each one of these other private permitted places. And Closest one is 10th of a mile, and then Club Red, which I got this in Club Red, it's actually electric cowboy now. It's right next to it, so 0.14. And Ruby Tuesdays is 0.25, Mallard 3/10 of a mile. If you go on around, on Charlie's is 7 tenths of a mile, and it says where I go, Fuji's Japanese Steakhouse is not 2 miles, it's 1 mile, and I checked it on my truck.
But they're not selling the kind of food he's, they're not offering the same kind of food he's offering. Now, if there was all
talking
this
about
beer
Fuji
joints,
or-
that'd be one thing, but he's offering alcohol with a certain kind of food.
Well, you know, it's funny, every time I come down here, that's everybody's about mine. Brick house, mine's different, mine's weird and whatever. Beer halls, mine's different. Shogun, mine's different. See, I mean, everybody's is different. So that means, so that shouldn't even be a consideration, I wouldn't think.
A lot of difference in Asian food and steak, chicken.
Well, man, I know that's what everybody says, mine's different, mine's different, mine's different. It is, it's not, I don't know.
Okay,
I'm just giving you the information, you do it what you want.
Let's move on.
So that's about it on adequacy. If adequacy means anything, I would say that this, and I really believe that this area is more than adequately served with alcohol. So anyway, I think that's all I've got on that one. I did, well, I won't refer to y'all know this in the things I referred to in the traffic, the regulations is section 1.21, number 3, traffic hazard, the traffic congestion are 2 factors which are people to, which may be considered in determining public convenience and advantage, and then on the adequately served, it's section 1.211, the types of existing alcohol beverage permits in the area. By the way, these are restaurants. The only one in this area right here that's not a restaurant is the Club Red or electric cowboy. Again, it's, you know, just the drinking, but the rest of them are all restaurants. So, that's well, I can get one, and save us some time. That's an extra step I brought with me that I think we're going to use in the process. There we go. Which I hope I wouldn't find it. Okay, an argument that's always made down here is economics. We hear this all the time. I can see y'all are real interested in my arguments. Every time we come down here, it's economic, it's good for economic development, good for economic development. I hear that all the time, through me. Y'all know I've been down here a lot. But let's just see if Jonesboro needs another alcohol permit for economic development. And I know they didn't make that argument, I mean, I realize that, but anyway, I do hear it all the time. And I don't know what the arguments they're going to make before we get here, so I have to be ready to, or whatever. But if you look up, I'm sorry about this, I'm about to forget again. Let me have that one, I gotta read this. Now this, I'm just going to go over the highlighted parts here real quick, so it won't take long. This is taken from, this front sheet is taken from Jonesboro Chamber of Commerce just a few days ago on the 22nd. Chamber of Commerce website. Nearly every category, from groceries to healthcare, the daily cost of living in Jonesboro is lower than in most metro areas. Jonesboro's cost of living is 14% below the national average. The Jonesboro MSA, that's we're make sure I get that right, metropolitan statistical areas, was recently recognized as 7th largest in the nation. There are more than 100 industrial plants or facilities in the Jonesboro area, and Chicago listed down here, big firms, President Butterball, LLC, Frito-Lay, et cetera, et cetera. You can see those there. The next page was an article from Jonesboro Sun in 1903. This was before the big ticket law passed, by the way. Magazine ranks Jonesboro 23rd on the list of business-friendly cities. Jonesboro has been ranked one of the hottest cities in the country to relocate or expand a business or industry, according to President Chamber of Commerce. Ranked 23rd by Expansion Magazine, Jonesboro was picked by 75 site selection consultants who selected the top 50 cities from 331 metropolitan statistical areas in the country. Criteria for Jonesboro's ranking include community cooperation, available labor force, utility costs, transportation, education, and government. We have all of those ingredients, Jones said. Jones consultants also looked at cities with a large industrial park with infrastructure already in place. It is a real advantage that we have that, Jones said. And Little Rock, North Little Rock was ranked 45th, while Jonesboro was 23rd. And I think there's enough alcohol sold in Little Rock every day for the partnership probably. Jonesboro, one of the smallest ASPs, make the list, is ranked one spot below Chicago. The station just ahead of their cash reserves, call solid. The next thing, the same way for 30 years there, we've been number 5 in the top 10 counties in bank deposits. And the next page there is basically evaluating the same thing in 2006. So that is that. Let's see. Bottom line for us is this permit is not needed in Jonesboro and Jonesboro area. County are doing great. We do not need alcohol, and especially more alcohol. Okay. Just a thing through here, I'll just go these real quick because y'all heard it before, about how well restaurants are doing without alcohol. And I could give, there's a whole lot more I could put in here. Most of it I've presented here before, so I'll just get these real quick. I know Colton's and Jonesboro and Conway are doing businesses, and Colton's and Harrison a few years ago apologized for asking for an alcohol permit, and they publicly apologized when they did. Well, their business increased 20%. Good is in Jonesboro so big wouldn't apply for a liquor license for 2 years. They've been there a couple of years. They haven't yet. Anyway, they're trying this new concept of not having alcohol in dry counties. They're doing great. And as far as I know, we have no plans to apply for a permit. Chili's and Cersei said they would honor the standards of the community and not properly. They think it's a good business policy to do that in these areas. I think it would be too. Chili's now in Conway, there's no alcohol yet, as far as I know. And out backstage is 99. They would not come to Jonesboro without the ability to sell alcohol. They came anyway and broke all records for any of the restaurant openings, and so did O'Charlie's, and so did this was that back, so did 2 or 3 others that I had the articles on, but I didn't, for y'all's sake, I didn't bring them with me. Bottom line, there is restaurants do not need alcohol to do a great business. If they have all the other quality needs to succeed, good location, good food, good service, and reasonable prices, they will make it. Matter of fact, alcohol can be counterproductive to a restaurant doing good business, and I'll just give you 2 or 3 right quick. I done did a hearing, I think I told you this before, a few years ago, and there was wasn't about this particular restaurant, but somebody testified that this restaurant applied, they were doing good business, applied for a liquor license, received a license, began to lose their business, and give up their license to get the business back. So it can be counterproductive. Chef Hills in Jonesboro lost business, so well, Oak Street Bistro, and I had a handout on this, but I won't need to teach us. Let's get this. I just showed the patron lost the bistro battle. You can understand why she lost business after she put her alcohol in the steal. So I was going to bring that up to you.
Is that an exhibit?
Well, I guess
it's up to you. I don't care.
Well, let's go for it. What do we do? Make it an exhibit? Just hand you a copy?
Give it to us.
Just give it.
Give it to Mr. Bennett.
No,
I think
He said he had- he said he had everybody.
we've seen that article, yeah.
Yeah.
But pass it in.
Go ahead. Make photocopies. Let's go ahead and do
I
that.
had everybody pretty good water,
Somebody get one of those down here,
It's coming your way.
please. Thank you.
Now, y'all are probably going to react to what I do next, but I hope not. I'm not going to be smart or anything like that, but I'm just going to get something in, and I'm making a point with this. I mentioned, well, I meant to mention, I didn't get quite to it. Sheffield's and Jonesboro did lose customers when I did this. They thought, excuse me, they thought by having an alcohol permit that would allow them to be open at night. It did not work. They had to shut back down. But of course, they came back later on, I'll show you something after a while, they didn't follow proper procedure for doing something like this. They just told y'all it needed to be done. But anyway, we, so here's some, I'm gonna go through these real quick. Believe me, y'all know that my heart's, I'm trying to hurry and find all the things that go with this. This one right here, this right here, okay.
System, Bob.
I know, yeah, you're right. But
All
that's
this-
more,
Keep all this stuff organized so they can, as you need it, they can give it to you.
I had some more people coming, but they didn't make it. Now, these will all kind of work together, and there'll be a couple of times that I'll kind of repeat myself, but I will go through them very quickly up front. So just, that you go one or?
Yes, I got I didn't get the map, but I got.
The map is, okay, the map is, yeah. Okay. Bear with me on this, but I'm gonna be making points. We had a couple of people come down here and created 3 restaurants down on downtown, or within 200, 300 main blocks of Main Street. Downtown Jonesboro said it was a ghost town, and boarded up with windows and doors, but now it's booming. But let's take a look at that boom. There have been 7 businesses in downtown Jonesboro, right close to these 2 blocks that they always call downtown Jonesboro, that closed in the last year. I didn't give you a handout on those, but I'm just gonna go over them real quick. One of them's Adams. Well, look at this. See the downtown Wow Factory down here at the bottom left-hand corner. You'll see 7. Did everybody get? I've got an extra. Did everybody get a copy of this?
I didn't get that.
The Wow Factory. Okay, I guess I've got your copy. Sorry about that. Okay, thank you. Two of those places, it says businesses that have signed long-term leases at the last month downtown. Notice this is June 17, 2007. It's about a year ago. Adams Flores, that's about, I don't know what a long-term lease is, but that's about a year, 6 months, they were gone. And then the Portraits Forever, they may have lasted a year. They're gone, no sign of them. Not sure when they left, but they're gone already, so that's less than a year. Now, these are a couple of businesses that closed down in the last year. Adams Flores, I just mentioned, Portraits Forever Photography, I just mentioned. And there's Hatton's Bakery on Cherry Street, closed January 8th, probably 4. It was only open about a year. Cranberry Merchant, corner of Union, Washington, closed last year, December 7th, I believe it was. The building's been for sale since that time. The green, yes.
Wait, how is this relating to the fact that this Thai restaurant out here is asking for alcohol?
Well, I hope you'll have to do this. It's on the economic thing.
Well, he didn't even bring up about the economic.
Well, what-
He just wants to open a restaurant. Or-
What, the downtown businesses though, what does that have to do with it? I know where downtown is and I know where this,
You know that they're hanging their hat on alcohol and that they're saying that that's
well,
that sort of thing.
That's up to
that's certainly their right. But, you know, I'm trying to relate this evidence that you're putting in to what these people are trying to do. It's a little difficult.
Well, just my point is, like I said, you may react to this, so, you know.
Well, I'm not
that's-
reacting, Bob. Well,
I don't mean in the
always try
bottom
to
way.
give
I don't mean in the bottom way. I
Lord,
mean.
to try to give
react
you the
may not
benefit of the doubt.
But just making the point about economics. And alcohol being good for economics, good for a restaurant, and also good for Jonesboro, because I think we have to take everything into consideration when doing that. If you don't want me to go, that's fine, I'll pass it on. That's good.
Well, the bottom line
What's that?
is that, we try to, you well know what things we have to look at here are. And I'm just trying to relate how what you're saying here fits in relation to the 7 things that we have to consider.
when y'all make decisions more than once, it's JJ, for instance, when he made the motion on maybe the brick house, it was the brick house. He mentioned all the money and the economics, the road and everything that brings there. So, you know, if that's true with that one, then that argument, that was made by a board member, so I would think that I would be able to do the same thing that the board member did.
Well, certainly, and I'm just having trouble in my mind relating what this is to the, what that is to this.
If another economic thing is not effective, then why was it used in the motion to rent brick house?
Wasn't that a different town even than Jones?
No,
Wasn't
that's
that?
not Jonesboro. Well, let's get on with.
I'll be real, I just, you know,
No.
I really, you'll make me mad if you say pass on, you know, you go on.
What I want is for you to relate and I think you've already done
I just
it,
did that.
at least in my mind, you're saying that the economics of alcohol, using alcohol, clubs, restaurants or whatever, don't make any sense, but they can do it without it, isn't that the?
There can be a negative aspect.
Okay.
I
got it.
I'm not the sharpest knife in the door, you know, I'm not a lawyer or trained lawyer or anything like that, I'm just kind of, I try to use common sense as much as possible, what little I've got of it, and maybe I've used it all up my life, I don't know.
Okay, what else have we got?
Okay.
We need to discuss about this.
Seven places, I'll just be brief, 7 places downtown have closed in this past year. So the second time I'm doing that these guys come down here and testify as a result of alcohol. That's not happening.
Have the restaurants closed?
Yeah, the Cranberry Merchant is a sort of what do you call it?
One restaurant, I believe, Heroes.
In Baton, no, Heroes.
They work it, they got passed off.
Mexican
place.
No.
Okay.
Any of the restaurants that have been approved for liquor license closed?
Not that I'm aware of. And one of them, just, I don't get it, not, none of them. But the thing is.
But your argument is that the alcohol's not necessarily being helping.
It's not necessarily helping, and can be detrimental, not on the ways that we normally talk about, but of course economic, just like the things I mentioned about Oak Street Bistro and whatever. That's the kind of point I'm trying to make. That's a Conway, yeah. But I mean,
You know,
principle is the same, whether it's in Conway or Timbuktu. What?
You got some strong competition.
Yeah, Oak
Mike's
Street.
place.
Well, we don't need to deal with Conway. We're dealing with Jonesboro.
But principle is the same anywhere you deal with it, whether it's Conway or.
I have a vote,
No.
Bob, on this permit. Let's talk about this permit. That's the 7 things we have to judge this permit.
And we did, and that's the way you want it, that's here's the way you want it. And you're telling me that you don't want me to go with this, right?
Bob, that is just unmitigated. That's not the thing to say. I'm telling you, I want to hear, and this board wants to hear, your evidence about this permit. Don't put words in my mouth,
Well,
please, Bob. I give you the courtesy every time you come down here, and we go through this every
In
time.
my mind, it was permanent.
And I love you, but I don't understand your arguments sometime here, and I think the rest of the
But
board.
believe me, I don't understand y'all's decisions sometimes too, but that's, you know, we can still not be mad at each other. And,
I'm not mad
we
at
don't
you.
Get along, I mean, you know.
Okay, I'm
So,
not mad at you at all. What
I'll-
else do you have to say about this permit?
Okay, I want to mention some things about enforcement. And,
Not about the permit, about it.
well, this permit will have to be enforced by the
Yes.
regulation. And the regulation has to be enforced.
But they don't have a permit yet.
No, when they do. So you saying, why do you say this, all right?
Well, they don't have a permit yet, so what sort of enforcement problems have they?
But they would be under the enforcement regulations.
Okay, so you want to talk about ABC enforcement?
Yeah.
All right, go
Well,
ahead.
okay, well,
Put
here,
that in the record.
let me tell you this, and then you can tell me whether to proceed or not. Additional alcohol outlets just naturally create more enforcement responsibility for the ABC and corporate agents do not have enough time to enforce, even right now, the regs of the current number of alcohol establishments.
And
And
that
so,
statement's attributable to who?
we,
Okay?
Okay.
Buy that in a minute.
Okay.
But that statement is based on having talked to people, and not what, okay. Let me, maybe if I go through this little business, and I'll get you out of here, probably by the red o'clock.
Well, we haven't had any lunch yet,
I
so
know, I know.
anytime, I am gonna get mad.
I know it, I realize that, I feel sorry for you, because I would hate to do it. I did get on with it.
No, you don't. Go ahead.
Get on with it.
Go, get on with it.
See if I can go ahead and cover this.
Something relevant.
Is
I
it
think so.
relevant to this permit, Don?
Okay. This story right here, posted in April 15th, well, let me just.
Springdale.
Yep. These are violations in Springdale.
And is this pertinent to?
Pertinent to this
To
Got to
this?
do
permit.
with Jonesboro.
Well, we have got alcohol places in Jonesboro that have to be enforced.
Okay.
Springdale's a different county, a different circumstance. We have to take each individually, Bob.
Well, it says 7 Springdale restaurants are cited for serving alcohol to minors.
Well, that is in Jonesboro.
That's the agents doing their job.
Well, it says right here, it says police received a grant to perform a compliance check for the Arkansas Drug-Free Youth Organization. Doesn't say a thing about the agents.
Bob, this is not pertinent to this permit.
I'm through.
Mr. Chairman, maybe you should read out loud into the record 7 things to be considered, so that when Bob leaves here and says that we wouldn't listen to his testimony, we can point out the things that we have to consider when making a decision, and maybe that'll prompt Bob perhaps to one of those things he can make a point about. Trying to help.
I appreciate it.
Well, you know, I know it's frustrating for you, Bob, because of your tremendously strong feelings about alcohol. And as I said, you know, we love you, but there are things we have to consider. And let me run these. Section 1.21, factors which may be considered in determining public convenience and advantage. Number 1, the number of existing alcohol beverage permits in the proposed area and whether the area is adequately served. And you've talked about that. You've told us your feelings about that. The type of existing alcohol beverage permits in the proposed area, and you've pointed that out. And we've talked about that. The suitability of the location of the proposed outlet. Factors as traffic hazards, which you have pointed out your feelings about the traffic hazards. Remoteness of the area doesn't have anything to do with it. We do have no one here dealing with the degree of law enforcement. We don't have anybody other than from the city of Jonesboro. I believe we've got an objection from the sheriff and the prosecuting attorney, but the people that handle traffic congestion are not down here saying anything, and that directly relates to my vote. The character of the surrounding neighborhood. It's a commercial area served by hotels, so that's in my mind. The suitability of the proposed building, including such factors such as the building. Building to me looks adequate. It looks like it's a restaurant. The potential impact of the proposed outlet on churches or schools. We have no objection that I've seen from churches that are close or schools. We don't have any principals down here. We don't have anybody talking about that. 6, the input from law enforcement officials and public officials. We have absolutely nobody down here objecting from the city of Jonesboro. We have absolutely no law enforcement from the city of Jonesboro down here objecting, as we have not had in most of these restaurant alcohol permits that have come down here. And finally, opposition or support comments from adjacent property owners, nearby area residents, any application, and then it talks about the permits. And you know, we take a wide latitude on introducing on petitions. So that, you know, those are the seven, I've been here 11 years. These are the 7 things that I think about when I'm either going to vote for or against a permit. And there are times that you just love me, and there are times you don't agree with me at all, you know. So, but these are the things, and if you're going to continue to represent your side of this issue, you fell into this one.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, well,
I'm not planning on this at all.
All right. Well, you're here, and you know, we trying to work, and I know it frustrates you, but these are the things we have to think about.
I appreciate
Okay,
that.
you have another.
And all I've got left
All right.
is the elected officials and the petitions.
All right, please do.
1,615 petitions here.
Right there.
This is total, including what you've got already. 1,600.
16, 15 total. 511 at ABC, 1033 delivered here. All right.
Please.
Have of them, I think, we've already got the prosecuting attorney. Whatever. Anyway.
Bob, these are what I believe Mr. Hogue has introduced similar things in the past.
Yeah.
These are the mayors from surrounding cities, correct?
Five mayors and JPs, a couple of, I mentioned, I think, one.
It does not include,
You-
does not include Mayor Jonesboro. We all admit that, right?
We admit
No,
that.
but we may have one, you know, we may have something.
Monette. Well,
Okay.
you think there might be a little personal or professional jealousy here that they don't want to see the city of Jonesboro? If I was mayor of some city out there, I don't know if I'd like
They all work,
Jonesboro either.
they all work together real well, and I don't think there's any kind of jealousy.
I noticed you got a new report
I
number.
mean, seriously, I don't.
Okay?
And that doesn't include this other stuff.
Okay. Okay, does anybody have any questions of Mr. Hester? You have any questions of Mr. Hester? Okay. Okay, no further questions. Anybody else have anything they need to put in the record at all? Okay, hearing no further testimony in the case of John Herringer, Shogun's Japanese Steak, Seafood, and Sushi on 2912 Gilmore. This is a private club refused by the director on April 17th. I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Lord, do we?
I'm sorry, I'm going to allow you to make closing statements. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. All right, Mr. Herringer, why don't you briefly sum up as to why you feel the permit should be granted? Mr. Lang.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's our belief that it's clearly shown that public convenience and advantage is in fact promoted. 7 factors which Mr. Fuller just read into the record strongly lay in favor